Warning, the Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother ears.
Good evening and welcome to episode 139 of the Stone Age Gamer podcast for the week of February 17th, 2017. I am Kris Randazzo, and joining me as always is freshly picked Dan Ryan.
At the peak of freshness, my friend.
The very peak. Tonight we're concluding our three-part Legend of Zelda retrospective. But before we go any further, here's your weekly reminder that you can email us at mail@geekade.com and let us know what you think of our show, what topics you would like us to discuss in the future, or just say hello, because we always want to hear from you, the listener. And now I'm going to turn off my podcast voice. Dan, how are you?
I'm good, Kris. I saw a thing that made me laugh really hard today. The Canadian Prime Minister was over here meeting with our DJ Trump.
Yeah.
And Sean Spicer was talking about it, and he got Canadian Prime Minister's name wrong in the White House press briefing.
I'm genuinely shocked.
And a Canadian newspaper wrote their headline that Melissa McCarthy impersonator Sean Spicer gets the fucking Prime Minister's name wrong. And I thought that was really funny. That's hysterical. Go
My
Canada.
favorite thing coming out of that I saw today was a picture of, the picture of him looking down at Trump's hand like, yeah, I don't want to shake that again.
Yeah.
Where somebody replaced the Canadian Prime Minister's head with Terrence from Terrence and Phillip.
That's fabulous. Go Canada. Big fans.
Oh, flapping heads and beady
wonderful.
eyes, flapping heads all full of lies. All right, so
here
we
are.
are.
A month into Donald Trump's America. There's still some joy to be had. So
there certainly is.
That's a thing.
For example, Zelda games. This is part 3 of our 3-part Zelda retrospective.
What a
this
transition.
Week,
look at you.
I'm professional. Man, we were knocking it out of the park last night on this week's episode. So
yeah.
Their transitions for days, man. It was professional business. Plug. Pluggy plug.
Pluggity plug.
Actually, you know what? Speaking of plugs, I need to bring this up before we go any further. Ted Dabney, who was the co-founder of Atari, we talked about this a little bit when we did our Leonard Herman interview a month or so ago, but dude's house burned down. He sold his chunk of Atari to Nolan Bushnell way before any real money was made off of it. So this dude is not well off, and his house burned down a while ago.
Not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's just kept to himself for a very long time, and some of the people that know him, like Leonard, after his house burned down, are like, "Look, we could start up an Indiegogo for you and help you out," and he refused for a long time. He's like, "I don't want to do that. I don't want to ask people for money." Well, he's had some health issues, and now they're like moving into a house and they need a new roof or something like that. Basically, he finally broke down and said, I could use the help. So I posted about it on our Twitter before, but if anyone's listening to this, it's not usually our place to go out and ask people to say, look at an Indiegogo or follow this Kickstarter or something. It's not really something we typically do, but this is the co-founder of Atari. He's a really important historical figure, and the dude is humble AF. So just look up Ted Dabney, Indiegogo, and if you got a couple of bucks to throw his way, that's as much as I'll say about it, because it's not really our thing to do that, but I thought it was worth bringing attention to. So
it absolutely is. I was going to make a cheesy plug about the beer I was drinking, but now I won't, because that would just seem small in comparison.
Well, I'll tell you what isn't small. The Legend of Zelda.
Also excellent. Well done, sir. Well done.
I can smell my own transitions from here. This week we're going to be looking at some truly bizarre spin-offs, some touch and motion controls galore, and the reason for the celebration, some Breath of the Wild. So let's dive right in here. In Japan, on the Nintendo GameCube on March 18th, 2004, in the US on June 7th, 2004, The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures. Dan, do you have any experience with this one?
Very, very little. I got it and tried to like get some people to play it, and they were like, "Nah, this is stupid," and it was like, okay, I guess I won't play this with anyone then, and it just kind of sat.
Yeah, it's
I wanted
doable
to
by
love it.
itself, but it's not as fun.
Yeah,
I, on the other hand, it took a year. It was years and years later. I mean, this maybe I only accomplished maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. But I finally did it. Over the span of about a year and a half, I would periodically have my friends over, and it was our mission to beat this game.
Right.
And I just, I had a GameCube. I had enough Game Boy Advances for everybody. I had all the link cables. And boy, we made it work. And this game is great. If you can play it the way it's intended, it is fan-freaking-tastic.
Well, and it's nice that this was like we are making a multiplayer Zelda game, and we're not making this like really enjoyable single player. This is meant to be played this way.
Yeah.
And
like
that's
they
a
worked
ballsy
it
move
in a way that you can play it single player, but it's
Sure.
just not. It's not the same, and it's designed around local multiplayer too. Like this was doing that Wii U stuff way before Wii U, where it's
Yeah.
like you each had your own screen. That was the purpose of everyone having their GBA, because whenever you went in a cave or a house, your character would show up on your own screen, like inside these places. And if you were finding like secret treasure or something like that, you were keeping that to yourself, because at the end of every stage you were graded on who won and who lost. And it required a lot of like working together and stuff. Like I remember there's puzzles where you have to, one person would be standing near where the target is, and another person would be on the TV screen shooting arrows into a hole. And the person like looking on their Game Boy Advance would see where the arrows are landing, and they'd be directing you like, no, try again, move a little bit to your right, and a little bit more to your right, kind of thing. Like they really, really made some clever stuff with that. And God, we had so much fun playing this game. Like it was just an absolute blast.
Yeah, it's one that I would like to maybe get around to one day, but this can just get added to the giant backlog of stuff to play.
This, I mean, and we're going to talk about this, an extension of this in Triforce Heroes a little bit later, but what I do not understand how something like Four Swords hasn't just been made into an online game, because
that would be way easier.
It would, because everybody
Like,
already
I could
has
do
their own
that
screen. And what that's the other part is like communication is so important. And well, again, we'll talk about it a little bit more in Triforce Heroes. They did it on a modern system, and they didn't include voice chat. So,
which is weird. But hey.
But back to Four Swords Adventures, I really loved the look of this game too, because it was HD Link to the Past.
Yeah,
that's
just great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's got the sort of Wind Waker-esque character designs, but the world itself was A Link to the Past, but with all these really cool effects going on top of one. The game just looks really good. Like, I love the visual style that they went with on this, and I can't overstate how freaking clever it is, and how brutal, how absolutely
it's
brutal.
Tough, right?
And it's not that it's tough, it's that it's tough to work together when your friends are asshats. I can't tell you how many times, like, I think it was Mauricio who was the jerk more often than not. I'd play with my buddy Tony, Mauricio, and Rich, and Mauricio would just pick you up and throw you off a cliff. To the detriment of the mission, because you have to work together. It's almost like Rampage, where you've got to work together, but at the same time you're trying to win and get the most Force gems. And
right.
We would just be so mean to one another. Just the horrible, because you can just walk up and pick up anybody anytime you want, and like you just pick them up and like shoot arrows at them. Oh God, it was just so. We were so mean, and it was great. It was so much fun. And then at the end stage, I told you they grade everybody.
Yeah.
You also get to vote for who was the winner and who was the loser.
Nice.
So like you get to vote. Everybody gets a vote on who was the most helpful, and everybody gets a vote on who was the biggest asshole. It's such a great party game. Like, and not even a party game, because it's more in depth than that. You really have to think about what you're doing, because it plays like a Zelda game as far as the puzzles are concerned. It's a brilliant game, really, really brilliant. And of course, not enough people played it because how could they?
Right.
Who has a GameCube with 4 Game Boy Advances and 4 GBA link cables hanging around?
It's just not. Remake it. Put it on Switch. Come on, voice chat.
Seriously. Because they're talking about GameCube Virtual Console on Switch. It's a rumor, and if they make this thing happen on Switch, I mean, obviously, and the online is a great way to combat the need for local multiplayer, but there really is nothing like having those assholes sitting next to you.
No, of course not. But I mean,
that's the same for just about anything.
Yeah, it's just not the reality that we live in anymore. You know, I mean, the memories of like playing fighting games against my cousin, like sitting down and playing, you know, like Tekken 3 or whatever, and like getting so pissed that I fucking knocked the controller out of his hand so I could try and Eddie Gordo the shit out of him. You know, like it just. Like that doesn't happen in you know, in an online setting, but you know, funny enough that you mentioned it though, like it just you know, with the Switch and all of that stuff, and I've talked my fair share of negativity about the Switch, but my daughter, Katie, came up to me the other day and she was like, "Hey, Daddy. So there's this new Mario game that I think I want to play." It's like, "Yeah, what game is it?" Because they watch YouTube all the time. It could have been Super Mario World. You know what I mean? Like I have no idea what she's talking about. She was like, I don't remember. It's something with an O, and like Mario can throw his hat, and there's like one part where it's like the real world, and I was like, "Yeah, it's no." No, you can't have that one. You can't. She was like, "Well, I kind of think I want it, though. And my birthday's coming up." And I was like, "Son of a bitch.
Well,
I'm going to have a Switch in the house."
It's not coming out till Christmas.
God damn it.
Hey, man, if they wind up making an online Four Swords Adventures and you have a Switch, you'll have someone to play it with.
I'm going to have a Switch, Chris. Going to have one.
Well,
Against my own better judgment. It's going to happen.
It makes your daughter happy.
Right? That's all that matters.
It truly is.
Anyway,
right,
so
let's move on. So Four Swords Adventures, fantastic game. Moving on to the Game Boy Advance game, Legend of Zelda The Minish Cap. Originally released in Japan on November 4th, 2004, and then in the United States, January 10th, 2005. Minish Cap is one of the few Zelda games I've never finished, and it kind of falls into the same category when I was talking about the Game Boy Color ones, the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. I think because this was also flagship developed, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'm going to look that up just to make absolutely sure. But what's your experience with this one?
I thought the hat looked stupid, so I didn't play it.
Ah.
Why should I play this game? Well, and also because this came out when in 2005, like I was going through a master's program and really didn't play like any video games whatsoever that were not named Castlevania. And I just kind of missed it. And I thought the hat looked really stupid. Like, why is there a bird on his head? This is so like, this will be really cool in Portland in about like 10 years. But for right now, this is odd.
Yeah, it's I did think that was a little strange, but in the context of the game, it makes sense. Because look, I actually do kind of like this one. I did confirm this is Flagship and Capcom who developed this one. So it does feel a little weird, but not as weird as the other ones because it really uses all really gorgeous original assets. Like I liked the concept of the alternate world in this game not being your typical dark world. It's just the same world except you're really tiny. And it looks great. A lot of those effects are great, and there was definitely that same feeling of the puzzles in this one that I got from the Oracle games that just didn't feel quite Zelda-ish to me. Like I couldn't put my finger on it, but it's one of the games that I keep meaning to go back to, and I never really spend the time doing it because I liked the villain. They didn't mess with Ganon in this one. They just went straight for an original villain in Vadi. The Wind Sorcerer, who's he's kind of cool looking. I'm cool with it.
Sure.
And the whole thing with Eslo, I also thought the hat looked dumb. And then like in the game, it's like, oh, he's like a dude that was cursed to look dumb. Like that was the point. He's a useless triangle thing with a bird face, and then he jumps on your head and you wear him like a hat, and he just kind of bothers you the whole
I'll
game.
wear you like a hat.
And he's surly as heck too.
Is he?
Yeah, he's quite surly. Sorry, surly. Good old.
I don't know, man. Like I do really like the way the game looks, and you know, like now at this point, like I don't have any qualms about like going back to play it. But again, you know, with the backlog of games that I currently have, is this ever going to be something that I finish? It's probably not. I mean, hell, I just last night finished Arkham Knight.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, like
You know what?
I got to tell you, not worth the amount of time I sat through the ending to get to the end credit scene. Because you know what the end credit scene in that game was?
The Joker laughing?
No. Finish the game 100% to get the rest of the end credit scene. I was fuck yeah, I sat here for 17 minutes. I should have just gone to YouTube, but I felt like I earned something. God damn it. Anyway.
I'll say this about Minish Cap is if the Wii U worked the way that the Switch will, then I probably would have finished Minish Cap by now.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because that's on Wii U Virtual Console, and I downloaded it because I like to play Game Boy Advance games on my television, and if I could then take that and move it into bed, then I would be great. But you know, I have the GPA cart, and I could stuff it in a DS or something or a Game Boy Advance, but it's not as convenient as the whole like suspend state kind of thing that you get with a virtual console, and that's how my laziness will get me to play through a game like this. And I was enjoying it more than I was enjoying the Oracle games. But who knows? Maybe it'll come out on Switch and I'll be able to play it. You know, in 30 years when I finally finish Breath of the Wild. I'm terrified of that game. But
you really should be. And what they announced today.
Yes, we will get to that.
I'm sure we will.
We will.
So Minish Cap. Good stuff.
Yeah, Minish Cap. I like this game. I wish I'd played more of it, but it also did a lot of good stuff for the mythology, like being the earliest game in the series until Skyward Sword happened.
Right.
With the whole like Gustav, the hero of men, as opposed to the hero of time, as opposed to the hero of winds. It was cool. I really dug it, and the way they kind of they used this to work Four Swords into the mythology a little bit better. It's a clever game, and I appreciate it.
Let's get to the next game though, because the next game may be, I mean, Breath of the Wild looks good, but it's got a tall order.
So, only in Japan on
surprisingly enough,
on the Nintendo DS on September 2nd, 2006, freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land was released.
It was something.
I know very little about these games because I'm not going to lie to you. I hate Tingle.
As well you should.
I know there are Tingle fans out there. I am of the mind of greatly disliking this little horror of a creature. I appreciated his existence in Wind Waker, mostly because of the look that appeared on Link's face whenever he saw him, and the fact that like he had those weird slaves working for him on his island. Like he was horrible in Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And everyone seemed to acknowledge that. But oh god, and we talked about Majora's Mask being ugly. Like that was one of the things that got me in Majora's Mask at first. Was like, what am I even looking at here? Like,
yeah,
what did you do? This is not okay. I just don't like this character. I don't like the giant red nose, huge head, creepy design. Like I don't get it. There's always supposed to be a layer of absurdity in the Zelda franchise. I feel like Tingle kind of takes it too far, but
yeah. And the name and like it's just it's too much.
It is. It's too much. And this thing, so what this is appears to be some sort of, Zelda style adventure game, except you star as Tingle. You're building a tower by collecting rupees because Tingle is like, I don't know, Wario, I guess, where he's just obsessed with rupees. Sort of, yeah. I don't know. I don't know enough about this game. Actually, no, I think I know exactly enough about this game.
I know more. I know way more than I even wanted to know about this game. Only in Japan.
Yes, this was released only in Japan.
Yeah.
That is exactly what you were trying to say. So we're going to go ahead and move on. I don't have much more to say about freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land. So, all right, next up. Released after a very long wait on December 2nd, 2006, for both the GameCube and the Nintendo Wii in Japan, and then on November 19th, 2006 for the Wii, and December 11th, 2006 on the GameCube here in the US, we are talking about The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.
Sexy Link.
Sexy Link. He's pretty good looking.
This is Sexy Link. Like, this is like cosplay fantasy Link.
It's also some of my favorite... It's my favorite Link design I think I've ever seen.
Oh, he looks awesome.
I have the first four figures Link on Epona statue that's based off of the artwork in this game, and it is... I'm looking at it right now. It is a thing of beauty. So Twilight Princess. This was essentially... this was the Breath of the Wild back then. You know, this was the swan song for the GameCube / the launch title for the Wii, which is kind of what Breath of the Wild is doing for Switch and Wii U. Except this one had quite the build-up. If we're going back to before Wind Waker, that original art style, that original fight between Ganon and Link,
this is demo, what we were promised.
This is what, this is what that looked like. This, except when this trailer finally hit, this is that E3 trailer that people talk about where grown men cried. I was one of those people. I was in tears when I watched this because I couldn't believe my eyes. That freaking trailer, man. Like, I didn't see it coming. There was nothing pointing to this being where the Zelda franchise was ever going to go again.
Right.
I mean, we had Four Swords, Wind Waker, Minish Cap, freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land. And then they dropped this trailer at, was it E3 04, I think?
Something like that,
It was a while before this game actually finally came out. We didn't have a title or anything, but oh my God, they were playing the Conan the Barbarian music.
Yeah, that was so dope.
Like, I remember just looking at the intro, the beginning of it, and thinking, boy, what is this? And then, you know, the monsters start showing up, and you see a horse, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then you see Link, and he draws his sword on horseback, and I was like, and then, oh my, just everything. It looked so good. You still look back at that trailer. It's still one of the most impressively cut trailers I've ever seen. It is so well done.
It's one of the most mature
oh my God,
things that they've done. And not mature in like, this is bloody and there's guts and boobs and stuff, but like, adults made this.
Yes.
You know, like professionals who are good at their job put this thing together.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And they showed off just the combat, the detail on Link. This was around the time where we were seeing what the GameCube was actually capable of. You know, we were now past Metroid Prime, and this was the same E3. This was the same E3 that we saw Metroid Prime 2 and Resident Evil 4. Like, okay, GameCube is awesome now.
Yeah, GameCube is good. We like GameCube.
Yes. And it was a long time. You know, we waited another year. We saw another trailer where we finally got the name Twilight Princess. And then the game finally came out, and it was really good. I bought it on the Wii and the GameCube eventually, but I played through the Wii version because I was really interested in it. It was also the only one that was in widescreen, and I had played the demo of it, and I was pretty sold on half of the motion controls.
Yeah,
the aiming was fantastic, and the waggle for swinging the sword, it had its moments.
It got tiresome.
Yeah, there were spots in the game. Like, I remember every now and then something would come up where I'd be really happy the motion controls were there. Like, I remember fighting this dragon at the end of the game. There was this flying dragon, and you were in the weird Uchu temple where you've had the dual claw shots. You're swinging around like
Right.
Spider-Man.
Which is awesome.
It was fantastic. And you get on the back of the dragon. I was like, yes! Swinging my hand around, like stabbing the crap out of this dragon. It was great. I was really impressed by this game. There's bits of the artwork that I don't love, like some of the character designs. Their faces are stretched and pulled in very strange ways. But yeah, Link is sexy in this game.
What did you think about all of the transformation stuff?
Oh, like transforming into the wolf?
Yeah.
It was good. It was an interesting way to go. Getting the stupid tears there was way too much of that, which they did clean up a bit in the Twilight Princess HD.
Did they?
Which a bit. They made it. There's way fewer of them. I think there's like half as many tears to collect. Like you still have to do all of those,
right?
But when you get there, it's like the tier thing is only like half as big. So
that's cool.
They're not
like
as much
so kind of like what they did with Wind Waker and adding like the fast travel kind of thing. Like
the fast travel.
Yeah, this is a thing people kind of didn't like. Let's fix it.
Yeah, exactly. They just kind of tweaked it a bit. Twilight Princess HD was released in Japan on March 10th, 2016, March 4th in 2016 in here in America on the Wii U. It's not as thorough a polishing as they did with Wind Waker, because that one was done in a house and this one they farmed out. But it's still pretty good. And it's kind of like the best of both worlds, because it doesn't it has the option of motion aiming, but it doesn't have the option for swinging your arms around like a jackass. So it's all buttons.
It doesn't have jackass mode?
Yeah, it doesn't have jackass mode. So you like this one, right?
I do, yeah. I think this one is very cool. It's very well done. This was exactly what I wanted. You know, like looking at this was like this was the promise. This was the original, what I thought I was going to get before I got Wind Waker, and you know, like the wolf thing was cool, and like I thought it was cool.
I liked it a lot too. I feel like it went too far in the other direction.
Yeah.
It was not as colorful as I would want it to be. Like at a certain point, some of it was a little bit too much brown for my taste. But I mean, it was so hard to argue with. Like Midna's such a great character. Like Midna's fantastic. Mallow, the friggin' baby that opens his own store and is like a shrewd business baby. I friggin' love Mallow. Like, it's so strange, but I'm so glad it's there. And like, I love what they did with the Gorons, with like basically making them sumo was such a good call. That was really, really cool.
Epona's really cool. Like
Epona's great.
Looks great. The
horse
controls
combat
well.
is good.
Yeah. That was the thing. Like the control of this game, even with the waggle, like this was one of the few games where the waggle, like I said, it gets old after a while, but it still felt pretty organic.
Yeah, because you never needed to be precise with it. It was just like shake the controller and it's going to do something.
Yeah.
It's basically shaking the controller just replaces a button press. So they didn't try to do you have to swing left kind of a stuff.
Yeah, they didn't try to one-to-one motion it. It was just, it really was. Like this waggle is just pressing A. Yeah. You know, and I thought it worked. Yeah, I really dig this one. I do want to play it. Again, like in the HD version, but now that I'm getting a Switch eventually, I think I might wait and see what comes for that. And like that's kind of the interesting thing when we're looking back at a list of all the Zelda games that have come out. Like every time there is a new Nintendo system, it's like, well, do I have to get a Wii U to play the HD version of this, or will this eventually make it to a Switch Virtual Console? You know?
I would hope so. I mean, they've been doing a pretty good job of making sure their Zelda games are accessible.
Yeah.
And the porting process from Wii U to Switch is supposed to be pretty decently easy. So, I mean, I can't imagine
and they kind of need as much goodwill as they can get, because people still not that happy.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It seems to be getting a little nicer. The overall feeling of Switch seems to be moving in a positive direction. I'm still not.
Well, yeah, but we're still like 2 weeks out, and we don't know everything.
You're
Just
not
saying.
wrong. You are not wrong.
Just saying, it doesn't feel like you're going to have a new Nintendo console in 2 weeks.
And yet I will.
And yet you will, and it'll be a thing. And that's going to be an interesting podcast, because it's just going to be you talking to me going, oh, really? I had no idea. Like, that's basically it.
It is. You're right. It's going to be an interesting podcast. But back to Twilight Princess. So, yeah, I haven't finished, like, going back on it and playing it again. I haven't finished the HD version, partly because my son doesn't like it as much because it's so much darker.
Yeah.
And another part of it just because, you know, they have this giant overworld. There's really not much in it. It is rather desolate, and it's some of it just I thought that if you just clean this game up and put it in HD, that it would look really, really nice. But really, unlike Wind Waker, where you clean that thing up and it just looks better, this kind of takes the other direction. It's like, wow, yeah, there's some funky architecture going on here. Some of this stuff really isn't.
Yeah, you start
quite
to notice.
Yeah, you really start to see the seams in this one because it went with the more realistic art direction.
Yeah.
But, you know, all things considered, it's still a darn good game. Really good interpretation of Ganon. I like this Ganondorf. I love the sword fight with him at the very end. I loved the whole final battle with Ganon. Actually, was great, where you had to fight the possessed Zelda, who's like floating around and looking all creepy, and then the giant pig Ganon. You have to. There's like a horse battle.
Who doesn't love giant pig Ganon?
Nobody.
I mean. Nobody doesn't love giant pig Ganon.
Exactly. It's just a damn good game. But really, if I look back on Twilight Princess, what I think of more than anything is that original trailer. That trailer just was that was a Nintendo moment in history right there. That was damn near untoppable.
You're not wrong.
So we got one more before we go to break, and we are going to talk about a game that, in my mind, had an impossible task to live up to. You heard me talk about how Wind Waker is my favorite game of all time, and still is. And on June 23rd, 2007, in Japan, and then October 1st, 2007 in the United States, for the Nintendo DS, we got our first DS Zelda game proper in the form of Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass, which was billed as a direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. I do not like this game at all.
I have not. Twilight Princess is officially the last Zelda game that I've played, so I am now a spectator almost in this show for
you
for
played
a
Link
little
Between
bit
Worlds, though, didn't you?
What's that?
I thought you played Link Between Worlds.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot that was on here. Never mind. I'm a liar as well.
You lying sack of shit. So, Phantom Hourglass, I keep hoping that the Majora's Mask effect is going to happen to me with this game, where one of these days I'm going to give it a serious try, and then I'm going to power through the part that I keep stopping at, and it's going to click, and I'm going to get it and be like, okay, this is good. But this game
alas,
it feels soulless to me. I hate Linebeck's character design. I don't like him as a character.
Is that the weird pirate?
That's the pirate dude with the bags under his eyes.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's talking like, I don't know, like a Jack Sparrow sort of thing. I don't know. He's just a scumbag, and apparently he's really likable, and I'm thinking, okay, there's probably some sort of backstory, and he's actually a really good guy.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't like him. I don't like his ship. I don't like the plotting out your course on the touchscreen by drawing a bunch of fancy lines. Like, it's not the same kind of... I don't get the feeling of freedom with the sailing as I used to get in Wind Waker.
Right, which is kind of the whole point.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, this is a sequel to Wind Waker was a great idea, because Wind Waker ended with an interesting premise of them going out to find a new Hyrule, to find a new continent to colonize, for Christ's sake. And I don't know, man. Like, you have to keep going back to that same place over and over again, and that stupid temple in the middle there, and you get like you're on a time limit or something like that. And the touch controls are really interesting because they work so much better than they should.
Really?
when I saw a video of it, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. You can't even use the D-pad to move you around. That seems absurd. But when you're playing the game, it works really well, like way better than it should. Same with the combat. You're holding the stylus down in the direction you want to go, and when there's something in front of you, just keep tapping the thing that you're attacking, and Link will keep attacking it. And it's really clever. It works remarkably well. I would still prefer to not have to do that, but if I'm stuck doing these kind of kitschy controls, I'm glad they work as well as they do. But there's very little in the way that you go to islands and there's almost no music. Like the music is just this very repetitive and then there's nothing to it. It's just the game seemed so soulless to me, and I want to like the game as a proper Nintendo developed Zelda game, and as a sequel to my favorite game of all time. I want to like it, but it's Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger is a freaking masterpiece. Chrono Cross, as much as I want to like it, I just can't.
It's not that great.
It's just not that great, and I want it to be, and I feel like this is what I want more than anything in the world, is for them to take Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks and do the Kingdom Hearts remake thing, where they took those portable games, take the Wind Waker HD engine that you have, plop this game into that, and somehow make that work, where I can
somehow
move around.
Make it good.
Yeah, like I want to be able to move around in 3D without touchscreen controls. I want this to look nice, and I want to see where the plot goes. I want to see what else this game has to offer, because it definitely has its fans. There are people out there who absolutely love these games, but I have never been able to make myself one of them.
But this game is also pretty divisive, right? Like there are people that like it, but there are a lot of people that hate this game.
Yes, I am definitely not alone on my feelings of, I don't hate the game. I just don't think it's very good.
Right.
It's missing that, heart and soul that I like so much about the best of the Zelda games. And it's just not right. It doesn't work for me. It does nothing for me.
All right. Well, I'll skip this one then.
Good plan. So we're going to take ourselves a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to trounce through the rest of this series. You are listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from Geekade.com, so stick around. And now here's a look at some of the other original content available right now at Geekade.com.
First up, our TV podcast takes its first crack at classic Doctor Who with How do we say this? Castrovalva? Is that it?
Castlevania? Yes.
Castlevania. The regeneration episode between Tom Baker and Peter Davison. They also discuss the recent Saturday Night Live ratings spike, Netflix's new Castlevania series, the all-new Magic School Bus, and more. And let's not forget Kris's weekly Dragon Ball Super 60-second summary. Don't miss this week's episode, episode 71. We apparently don't have a title.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I haven't decided on one yet. And that's okay. He's allowed. But yeah, I don't know if you know this, but every week I sum up this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super in 1 minute.
In the Super 60-second summary?
That's right.
Now that I've read it, because I didn't read this beforehand, I can say it much quicker.
Word.
That's how reading works.
Next, in the dead of winter, it seems citrus is everywhere. Really?
Yeah, no, it is. In the beer store.
Well, okay, including in your beer. Inspired by the Mrs. Hunter Wilde took home a few citrus-tinged brews to try and faithfully... I messed this up when I read this last night, too.
You're inspired by the Mrs.,
Inspired by the Mrs., Hunter Wilde took home a few citrus-tinged brews to try and has faithfully reported the results to you out of the goodness of his heart. That's right, I read this last night on this week's episode, and I screwed it up the exact same way again. I'm tired. For his recommendations, click on over and read The Imbibing Scribe, Boarding Call for the Citrus Flight. To be fair, I was doing a funny voice when I read it on this week's episode.
Were you? What was the voice?
I was doing it like an action movie. In the dead of winter, it seems citrus is everywhere.
We should do them all from now on.
Sunday,
like that.
Sunday kind of a thing.
Then, if you're interested in FX's new mutant series Legion, but you just don't have time to keep up with the show, then you're in luck. Our own Trish Reyes recaps the latest offering in the X-Men universe from the creator of the Fargo TV show and her weekly series, Legion of Spoilers. Chapter 1 is available now, with new installments posted the Monday after each episode airs. Click on Spoilers in the Articles tab on our homepage to find this and all our other fantastic TV recap series.
Finally! Remember when the world was saved on a weekly basis by heroes piloting lightning-shaped ships that assembled to form a giant robot? Sundays!
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to still be an action guy voice. I do.
Those were the good old days.
They certainly were.
They certainly were. Our good pals at Netflix have reached back into our primary colored pasts, grabbed a hold of one of our favorite cartoon properties, hopefully that's all they grabbed a hold of, and rebooted it for the modern age. Can the new version hold up to the legacy of the past? Spoiler, yes. Yes, it freaking can. Find out in Paladins and Lions, Voltron, legendary defender located in the think tank.
We might even do a little cross-promotion when the PAD North America exclusive collaboration comes out between Puzzle and Dragons and Voltron Legendary Defender.
No friggin' way.
So fucking hyped.
That's awesome.
It's just going to be a reskin of like Kanuki Man or some other Japanese-only collab, but I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
Voltron.
Don't care. It's Voltron.
Done.
It's awesome.
It might get you to play.
Nah, not gonna happen. But you can catch all this great stuff, plus tons of other articles, videos, podcasts, and more right now at geekade.com. And we are back. So that was a fun little break. We're well rested. We're not well rested, but we're ready. We're ready to keep on plugging down the Link Train. In the next 3 games, we're going to talk about our
Link Train.
Weird...
I see what you did there.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
No, that's how good you are.
Twice over, actually, I didn't do that on purpose. So
God damn it.
The next game, chronologically following Phantom Hourglass, was the all-time classic, beloved masterpiece for the Nintendo Wii. Released in Japan on May 1st, 2008. In the United States, November 19th, 2007. Link's Crossbow Training.
Just stop it. Stop it.
This game is awesome.
Sure.
I love this game. I love it better without the zapper attachment.
Well, it's because they didn't give you an actual crossbow attachment. That's really the thing.
Yeah, true.
That I wanted.
I do. I really like this game. I never finished it. I really should, because it's just running around shooting stuff. It's a third-person shooter with Link. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, this is not something I've
with
played.
Like a fully automatic crossbow.
It's just not something I'm going to play.
Oh man, you really should. It's you can get this game for like $1 at anywhere that sells it.
It's too much.
Because it's the thing that came for free with the zapper, which is literally a piece of plastic. There's nothing inside of it. No electronics at all. But no, seriously, I really liked this game. If you've never played it before, it takes place in the Twilight Princess universe. It runs on that engine. But it's just it's a third-person shooter where you're moving, or you're aiming with the Wii remote, and you're moving Link around with the nunchuck. I mean, it's a third-person shooter in the Zelda universe. It is so strange that this is a thing, but it's hilarious.
I hated this from the box art of the game, where like they tried to make Link's crossbow look like the Wii zapper, like the way he's holding it. I was like, fucking stop it. Just nope. I'm out. Dumb.
I was sold on it from the get-go. I was like, oh, you're packing this kind of stupid? I'm in. I'm game. I love this kind of stupid. because it didn't
I'm
take
sure
itself
it's fun.
seriously for a
I'm
half
sure
a
it's
second,
fun.
and it was just fun. It was like
Yeah.
a friggin' House of the Dead Link game, except you could move your character around. It was just great. It was just stupid fun, and I'm so glad this exists. This is the kind of dumb spin-off that I am all for. Like, this is Metroid Prime Pinball. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't make sense, and yet it does.
And somehow.
So,
All
all
right.
right. June 24th, 2009, DSiWare, only in Japan, Dekisugi Tingle Pack.
Mm-hmm. More tingle.
I don't know much about this other than it was, it's like a mini game collection. But they're not even games. Like, it's a fortune teller. According to Wikipedia, it's a fortune teller, a calculator, a timer, a coin flipper, and a dancing game.
So it's basically like half of the shit that comes up on my iPhone when I swipe up from the bottom.
Pretty much, except Tingle themed.
Well, since you put it that way.
Line up now and get it. It was
No.
kind of a precursor. It was like a precursor thing to the next game on the list. Because that's it. That's all I have to say about it. This is a thing that exists. I have never played it. It's only on DSiWare in Japan, so I will never play it.
Right. That's not.
Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't even know how to begin to get it.
Right. I'll upload it to the Dropbox later. Don't worry.
Good man.
Okay.
Fire up my DSi emulator. So the next game is what this was kind of like leading up to, which is
More
actually
tingle.
one I would really like to play. This one. This was released on August 6th, 2009, only in Japan again, for the Nintendo DS. Irozuki Tingle no Koi no Balloon Trip, which is basically Balloon Trip with Tingle, which, all right. I love Balloon Trip.
Sure.
It's a pretty, it's like,
But tingle.
it was the mode in Balloon Fight that was basically not Joust, and Tingle used to blow himself up with balloons and float around, so it makes sense.
Yeah, no. it
As much as
totally
Tingle
does.
himself makes sense, and it's just Balloon Trip, but with Tingle in it, and I think it's new levels or something. I don't know, man. This is friggin' weird, but somebody somewhere thought to themselves, like, hey, Tingle's got balloons hanging out of his butt. Kind of like those Balloon Fight guys. We should make a Tingle Balloon Trip game.
You know what we should do?
Stamp of approval. Make it happen.
Nintendo seal of quality.
Get it to the
Right
presses immediately. But
Johnson.
again, this is the kind of stupid that I'm into. Like, this is exactly the right kind of stupid for me. It's got a storyline and everything. Like,
Yeah,
whatever.
Nope.
Oh yeah, the official translation of this title: Color Changing Tingle's Balloon Trip of Love.
I'm out. I'll play Froth all day. Ribbit King is my shit. This I'm out. Sorry.
Moving on. I want a copy of this game. I want one. I want one of my very own to hold and hug and play for 5 minutes and say, well, I have this now, and put it on my shelf next to my CDI Zelda games.
This is a thing that I now own. Next.
Next up is the second proper Zelda game for the Nintendo DS, The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks, released December 23rd, 2009 in Japan, December 7th, 2009 in America. Again, we got it a little bit before they did. This one, on the other hand, is pretty cool. I have not finished it. It uses the same engine as Phantom Hourglass. It's not a flawless system. Like, I didn't play this one because I refused to play it until I finished Phantom Hourglass, because there is a story lineage between the two of them, and
Right.
I wanted to make myself finish Phantom Hourglass. But this one, like, when I first saw the trailer for it and everything, the music sold me so quickly. I was really, really happy with the original music they came up with for this, and it just looked neat. It was... It took place in the future from the Phantom Hourglass, which was, not as too much in the future from Wind Waker, but it took place enough in the future that there had been advancements in technology enough that there was now a railway system. Things were steam powered in this Hyrule, and I thought that was kind of neat.
Steampunk Zelda, I would be into that.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea, and the little of it that I've played is pretty decent. It's got a cool story. It's got a cool looking villainy type dude who's like this ninja guy with a claw on his hand, like very unlike any other Zelda villains I had seen before. I think the real villain is this little chancellor dude who's got 2 top hats on his head, which is a little weird, but I think they cover up horns or something.
It's fucking totally evil.
Yeah, he's
2
totally
top
evil,
hats.
like just from the get-go. Like you look at him like that guy's evil. That is an evil guy right there.
There is no need for that, sir. I'm sure of it.
But it's kind of a neat game. I also like the whole, like, Zelda's with you the whole time, but she's a ghost. Except for when she's inhabiting, like, a giant suit of armor and just screwing dudes up with her giant broadsword.
Which is pretty sweet.
It's pretty sweet. There's a lot to like about this.
Is this game, but does this control the same as Phantom Hourglass, where you, like, have to touch the screen?
Yes.
To
Yeah,
get
it
him to
controls
move?
exactly the same as Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah, like, I'm just not into that control scheme. Like, I don't like playing games that way.
Yeah,
I've
would
tried
prefer to
play
be
them
using
like
the buttons.
on like iPhone and iPad. There's a couple games that play like that. And I just don't care for it. It works, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like it works surprisingly well, but there's like a sort of a stealth segment towards the beginning of the game.
Right.
And the whole time I was playing it, I was just wishing I could control it with the friggin' analog stick. Like, the whole time, I'm like, I just want to be able to move and press buttons. Like, it's just what I want.
Just let me play this game the way I've played games for 20 years.
Yeah. And, like, I haven't played enough of it to give it a real solid thing other than this one, unlike Phantom Hourglass, I was genuinely enticed to play more of. It never got around to it. Things kept coming up. I had other games that I was playing at the time, and I've never gotten back to really playing it. I gave it a recent shot because my kid was really into trains at the time, and he was really into playing the Link boat game, as he calls it.
So the Link
Wind
train
Waker.
game.
So the Link
And
train
who doesn't
game
love
seemed
trains? I love trains.
Exactly. Choo-choo.
If Evan hits the lottery, we're going to have a train room. I don't know where, but we're going to have one.
Gonna make it happen.
That's right. I'm going to have a conductor hat and everything. It's going to be great.
I mean, Link has a conductor hat in this game.
I know. I should
He looks
love
adorable
this.
in that outfit. It's fantastic.
I should. I have a whole box full of like my grandfather's trains that he got in Germany. They're awesome. I love them. Great.
So
The
yeah, I
Mittens?
wish I had more to say about Spirit Tracks. I really do, but I mean, it's a cool game. It's definitely better than Phantom Hourglass.
Right.
No question. Even with I've played more of Phantom Hourglass, even in this short amount of time I've played it. There is a soul to Spirit Tracks. Like, that game felt like it was made with love.
Right.
Whereas Phantom Hourglass felt like it was made to
With
promote
dollar
the
signs.
touchscreen. Like, we want to make a game that revolves around this touchscreen control idea, and that's how that happened. Whereas Spirit Tracks was more like, we have this idea, let's go with it. And it felt like that to me. I don't know if that's actually the way it worked, but I dig the idea of Spirit Tracks, and also it has good music, so huzzah for that.
All right. This next one, I want you to talk to me about, because I feel like this Zelda game is oh yeah, there was another one on the Wii too, wasn't there?
Yeah, and it was a big deal. This was the game that this was the Wii from the ground up Wii Zelda game. This was the game that was like supposed to sell motion controls. This was it took the lessons that they learned from making the Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort games, and they applied them to a Zelda game. I loved this game. I really did. We're talking about Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, released November 20th, 2011 in Japan, November 23rd, 2011 in America for the Nintendo Wii. So this one also had a lot of hype leading up to it. There was lots of talk of like where the storyline fit in, because they showed off, before anything, they just showed off a single piece of artwork for the game. Which had Link not holding a sword, but kind of guarding this silver girl-looking creature that turned out to be Fi, that turned out to actually be the Master Sword. The motion controls in this game, they worked for me, but I also know that there were a lot of people that they didn't work for, and I don't mean as if like they didn't like the motion controls. I mean they physically didn't work.
Right.
From depending on your setup, you needed to be in the right circumstances so that there was no interference happening between your Wii and your Wii remotes, because you needed the remote to move the specific, I guess, one-to-one. It doesn't really work one-to-one. Nothing's 100% one-to-one, but it
Right.
as close to that as the Wii Motion Plus could get you. And it worked for me damn near flawlessly the entire time I played this game. And this game did so much stuff right. This moved things so much in the right direction. And talking about this and then combining it with what they moved around with in A Link Between Worlds, which we'll talk about next, is how we got to Breath of the Wild. Like, Skyward Sword was really kind of the first step in them really looking at the formula that the Zelda series had been working on since Ocarina of Time, and saying like, all right, how do we change this while still making it Zelda?
Right.
And one of the things they did in this game that I liked so much is that the dungeons themselves started before you got into the dungeons. Like, you would go to a place and then you'd have to solve a bunch of puzzles to even get into the dungeon.
Which
And
is kind of cool.
It was great. It was great. And some of the locales in this were really memorable. There's this one spot in the game that was pure genius. It's like this mine, and the rocks in the mine, they emit this field around them. Like, you've played Metroid Prime 2, right?
Yeah.
You know when you're in the dark ether and you shoot those things and you're like the safe pods where you can stand in?
Vaguely, I remember it. I didn't play much of it.
So like, there are these rocks in this mine in Skyward Sword, and when you hit them with, I think when you just hit them with your sword, they emit like a zone around them, like a dome around them.
Okay.
That's 100 years in the future.
Okay.
So it's like a time distortion bubble. So, 100 years in the past, I think. Or I don't even know if I'm getting the right time, but it's like 50, 100 years or something difference. And so when you're standing in this spot, you're standing in that spot, but 100 years different. So everything's in ruins around you, but if you hit this stone with your sword, this little bubble around it, like whatever machinery was there, that's all in ruins. If you hit that, you take a rock over to there, hit it, it'll make that machine where it was 100 years ago when it was working, kind of a thing. It was genius. It was so cool. There was a lot of that kind of stuff in this game. There were a lot of really interesting character designs. And the mythology itself was so cool because it was telling the origin of the Master Sword. It was telling the origin of Ganon before Ganon. It was the power that Ganon eventually took into himself. Sin, or whatever they called it. You wound up actually, the last boss of the game was like the embodiment of evil that basically looked like a Kuma. It was creepy. There's so much to love about this game. I love the visual style of it.
Don't people hate this game?
Some people do, because they couldn't get it to work, you know?
I mean, but was that the only reason? Because I thought there were other
I don't know.
complaints that people had.
I feel like there must have been.
I mean, like, again, I was so not the audience for this anymore. Like, I had traded in my Wii at this point, you know?
Like, I wish I could remember, because I really just have very fond memories of it myself. Like, I loved the story. I loved they reinvented Impa in this really, really cool way. I loved Zelda. Like, the Zelda wasn't, they took, I don't know if it was a bold direction, like intentionally on their part, but I feel like it was a bold move, because they didn't make her useless, but they didn't make her like a badass. They made her a different kind of important person. Like, she didn't grow up being a warrior or something like that, which that seems to be the typical way of making a female character powerful nowadays. Like, if they have to be just as physically adept at fighting and whatnot as the guys, or they're a badass with a sword or a bow and arrow or something. Zelda in this game was not that. She was a confident person. She was very smart, and she wound up sacrificing not sacrificing her life as in like sacrificing and died. Like she sacrificed her time, like the actual dedication of her life to solving a problem because it was her destiny. And it was a really interesting take. And Link and Zelda were like, they were friends, they were childhood friends, and you could clearly tell that the two of them liked each other quite a bit.
Right.
Like there was flirtation going on earlier in the game, and she wasn't traditionally like, if you look at Zelda in Twilight Princess, she's beautiful. She's very beautiful. And in in Skyward Sword, she's kind of odd looking. She's got a big nose, and she's cute. And I really liked that about the way they...
She's just a person.
Exactly. She felt so much more like a person. And I know a lot of I remember people complaining that she was like, oh, she's a damsel in distress again. It's like, well, that may be true, but she's also being protected by a warrior woman. Like Impa was very young in this game, and she was a complete and total badass.
Right.
And so you can't really cry sexism there. Like, it's
okay.
I
can and I will.
It is okay sometimes for, she wasn't just relying on Link to save the day. She was relying on people to save the day, and she was saving the day. She was just doing it without picking up a sword and getting into a fight. She was a very important person to the whole plot. I mean, I loved the way that they explained Link's outfit. Like, this was the origin of why they dressed that way, because they were in a school, and it was their school uniform basically, and the different colors, the green, the blue, yellow, and whatnot, they meant different things, like Star Trek uniforms. Like, these neat little things that they did like that really brought this world together. My chief
Link
complaint
is wearing Command Gold in this.
No, he doesn't get Command Gold. He gets green. My chief complaint in this game came from how limited the exploration was. Like, the dungeons, having to solve puzzles to get into them in their respective areas was great, but the world itself was really disconnected, because you had this giant open area in the sky because you were flying around on these birds the whole time. But instead of it being like in Wind Waker, where you got in your boat and you would just go to an island, there'd always be something there. There was nothing on any of these islands floating around the sky. Like, you could fly to these little islands and drop down on them, and there'd just be nothing there. It'd just be a rock floating in the sky. Like,
That's weird.
There was so little to do, and I don't know why, because that was a great opportunity. And then also,
maybe they were out of shit.
I guess, I don't know.
They
pulled it off in Wind Waker so well. Everything felt so segmented in this one, because you'd fly over the area and like the clouds were kind of like your door, and they had these holes in the clouds, and you would jump through the holes in the clouds, and that's how you'd get to the different areas. And so each chunk of the game was literally sectioned off. Like, there wasn't one giant world to explore to go from point A to point B. It was like you'd have to fly back up to the sky and then drop back down in another place. Mm-hmm. And it had a weird structure. The game is definitely flawed, but I would say if they find a way to make this game without the motion controls, because look, they're very, very involved in the game itself. Like, there's some great boss battles in this game. One of my favorite boss battles in all of Zelda actually came from this game. There's this giant, like, robot statue type thing that's like in a pyramid, and it's got all these arms with these giant swords on them, and you have to, like, you can pick up those arms after you cut them off and then swing these giant swords around, and it did a lot of really clever things with having to point your sword in different directions and slice in specific ways. But I feel like there's got to be a way to translate that doesn't involve specific motion controls, because if they do manage to do it, then this game is really, really worth playing. I don't know how they're going to get... I don't know that they're ever going to take the time to get away from the motion controls with it, just because it's so... It would be a lot of retooling in order to make the game work without them. But
right.
I hope they do someday, because I would love to see this game in HD. The art direction was great. Yeah. So that's how I feel about Skyward Sword.
Like I said, this is not one that I've played, but I know it is. It has people that do love it, but it also has its detractors as well.
I think you'd really like it if it was like you would like the actual structure of the game, the gameplay itself, and the story. I think you would really like it because it's not. It is that perfect balance between Twilight Princess and Wind Waker as far as art direction goes. Like it's more impressionist painting. It's definitely stylized.
It looks very cool.
It does. It's got some good characters. It's got some great boss fights. It's got a cool story. It's very memorable. It's just that it's also really tied to that, rolling bombs using like the bowling from Wii Bowling and stuff.
Man,
it's like
I just could not want to do that.
You would hate that. You would hate so much of that in this game. Holding the Wii remote straight up so that you can douse and find things with it.
Nope.
Like, it's got a lot of really dumb things in it.
Nope.
And maybe someday.
No. Like, I understand. I get it. I get why they were doing it. I will never understand Nintendo's decision to not include multiple control schemes. It just doesn't, like, especially because this came out towards the end of the Wii, right?
It was 2011, so yeah, it was pretty late.
I mean, they
this.
had to know at that point that, like, old people bought the Wii and played the bowling game, but like that was it. Like motion controls were not. It was not the thing that was blowing up the world. And like I know that the Kinect had come out and PlayStation did the Move and all that, but like they have the internet as well.
Yeah, but the problem was this was in development for so long. This was supposed to be the game that was the proof of concept. This was supposed to be the game that showed off that you could make good games with motion controls. And it took them so long to actually make it work and make it right that it didn't come out until the end of the system's life cycle. And that was the problem. Like, they were past the point of no return by the time motion controls had been proven to not be things that people really wanted anymore.
Should have given it a little bit more time and released Skyward Sword on the Wii U like they did with Twilight Princess.
But I mean, that was the thing. They didn't really want to go that route again. They had promised it for so long. I feel like that really would have hurt them if they had skipped the Wii entirely, because
saying do the Wii one, but also do the Wii U version, but like don't make me fucking waggle my controller around. That's all I'm saying.
That would have been nice.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
All right. Well,
so it was another couple of years.
Yeah.
Before we got the first Zelda game on the 3DS, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, released on December 26, 2013 in Japan, November 22nd, 2013 here in America.
I really need to finish this game, but I really like this game.
I do too.
I don't like low roll. That's still stupid. But
all right, so yes, much like Phantom Hourglass, this had an impossible task of being a sequel to one of the best games in the history of the planet.
However, there was enough time between this one. Like, Phantom Hourglass was relatively soon after Wind Waker. This was, I mean, Link to the Past.
This was a while ago.
Yeah. So
but
the still, biggest, as a sequel, the big task.
Yes, big task. I have a couple of big issues with this game, like just kind of base level stuff. First off, I don't care for the art style at all. The art direction really bugs me. Not enough to really ruin the experience or anything, but yeah, I don't like the way anything looks in this game.
It's a little too chubby.
Yeah, a little too shiny, a little intentionally not detailed. It's the conceit of this game, there's two major problems I have with the conceit of this game. This is supposed to be like somewhere like 100 years or something. This is supposed to be considerable amount of time after A Link to the Past, but taking place in the same world. Almost nothing has changed.
Nothing.
Like, you cannot tell me that this much time passed and every tree is in exactly the same place. Like, the rocks are in the same place.
Well,
I get that this started life as a remake of A Link to the Past, but it doesn't...
And became some... Yeah. There wasn't an asshole running around cutting down and burning down all the trees.
Yeah,
in the 100 years that there was no Link.
but nothing new
Everything was allowed
grew.
to grow.
There's no new buildings, new structures, new towns. There was no... when they told me that this game was going to be a continuation of that, I thought, cool, I'm finally going to get to see what's beyond those clouds on the map screen.
Right, I'm going to see how this world has grown and what else there is.
Like, are you telling me that nobody in Hyrule has expanded beyond those borders? I have a problem with that.
Nobody has expanded past this one town with, like, 3 houses?
I had a real problem with that. I know that seems like a small complaint, but I mean, look, Link to the Past is a damn masterpiece. This was so many years later.
Yeah, like this is a world that you're expecting me to jump into, and you're not giving me that ability to jump into it because you're not making it real.
And I mean, and not only that, just from a technical standpoint, you fit Ocarina of Time on 3DS.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me that this world was as big as it could be. They just stuck to the limitations of the original game, and that bothered me because that was an opportunity. That was an opportunity to have that map in the middle there, because when you look at the map in A Link to the Past, it's like, here's this awesome map, and then it's surrounded by clouds. I wanted to see what was beyond those clouds. Yeah. I wanted this to just be the whole map from A Link to the Past to just be a piece of this.
Yeah.
The other thing that bothers me, like you said, is Lorule.
It's just a
Low
dumb
Rule
name.
is yes, it's a dumb name to begin with. Like, I get the wordplay, haha. It doesn't bother me too much, but what bothers me is that Low Rule is this alternate dimension of Hyrule, and Low Rule looks exactly like the Dark World in A Link to the Past, which ceased to exist at the end of that game when Link got the Triforce, because the Dark World was a reflection of Ganon's heart. It was the Golden Land that represented the heart of the person that was holding the Triforce. That was the conceit of the Dark World. So now you're telling me that this Low Rule alternate dimension just happens to also look exactly like what was reflected in Ganon's heart?
Yes.
I don't buy that.
No.
And that was another huge missed opportunity for this game. Like, nobody, as far as I know, nobody thinks back to the look of A Link to the Past and remembers how awesome the Dark World looked. Like, it was desolate and gross and ugly on purpose.
Yeah.
Here you have an opportunity to make a dark mirror dimension of Hyrule and take it in a whole different direction. And instead they made it look exactly like the Dark World in A Link to the Past, which was a cop-out. It was not well thought out. It directly contradicts a plot point in the series.
Yeah.
However, the music in this game is unbelievably good. The controls in this game, every direction.
Perfect.
No, just perfect. Any direction you want to face, swing your sword, you go. It's so clever.
The painting mechanic.
What's that?
The 3D, like, flattening yourself into the painting against the wall.
That was
super
great.
Cool.
It was great. It was never overused. It was also never underused. They used it just the right amount. It was genius. I didn't care for Ravio.
The bunny.
I didn't. Yeah, the bunny guy. I don't know what Nintendo's fascination with purple bunny characters was around this time, because you also had Nabbit in the new Super Mario Brothers game, which was a purple bunny rabbit character. That was very strange to me.
I liked the fact that I could get all the items and just have them. Like, I don't have to, like... That's one of the most frustrating things when you've played, like, this is now the 20th one of these that I've played, and, look, I don't have the sword again, I gotta go get it, you know, like...
Well, see, that was kind of I see what they were going for there in your ability to get the items in whatever order you want, but it also, like... It fell into the trap of, like, you'd go to a dungeon and it would have a picture of the item you needed there on the outside of it. And it was like, all right, so one of the things that was so cool about playing the original Legend of Zelda is, like, you'd have to figure out that you need this item in order to accomplish this task. So it wasn't like you were going to the Fire Rod dungeon. It was like you'd go somewhere and, I need bombs. I need the step ladder. You know what I mean? almost like you would play like a Metroid game where you'd be exploring and then you'd come across something and say, I don't have what I need to get over that yet, but I'm going to remember that that's there. So when something comes up, I can remember to go back to there and use that item to get to it.
Right.
That kind of exploration. Now, A Link Between Worlds,
they did take that away.
They went too far in the opposite direction. And now you would go to places and say, like, well, I'm just going to buy all the items and now I have everything. And instead of having it where, like in the original Zelda, you could figure out how to do these dungeons without different kinds of items. There was a sequence, but it was breakable. And where in this one, it's like, well, you can't get through this without this item. There's not a lot of experimentation or alternate ways to accomplish these tasks. It's like, you need these items, so go buy them. And it solved the problem of like the spinner in Twilight Princess, where it was like, here's the spinner, it's really cool, you can use it here and nowhere else.
That's it.
Here's this item that was designed only for this dungeon. It was great, but what else can it do? It solved that problem of having, like, now I go to this dungeon and get this dungeon and get this. But what games like, say, even Wind Waker do that I love so much is that, and A Link to the Past in particular in relation to this game, is that you would get to those later dungeons and all the tricks and items that you had gotten up to that point were still relevant. Like,
right.
You weren't trying to solve something just based on that new item you got. You needed to combine all the knowledge you had gotten to that point, similar to the way they do it in stuff like Castlevania and Metroid. You never forget the stuff that you learned. And whereas Link Between Worlds, it was like, well, since we're designing it around the idea of you can do these in whatever order you want, they kind of didn't really make it to have a progression where you're getting to these dungeons where you're not just using the one item, you're combining everything you learned in conjunction with that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did take away, you're right, I mean, they did take away that aspect of it. But, I mean, you added the aspect of flattening yourself against the wall and using that to solve puzzles and navigate through the dungeons. So, I mean, it's a trade-off.
The
and
extreme
one that I think
verticality
works.
that they did in the dungeon design was genius.
Yeah, I think it really works in this. Like, we have some complaints about it, but again, having the impossible task of following up A Link to the Past, I mean, there was always going to be some issues, and this is kind of one of those things where almost where you look back to the original Zelda of like, all right, well, how do we follow that up? By doing something completely fucking different. We just do something else. You know, like he's a cop now. Like, I don't know, he's in the mean streets of Los Angeles. Like, what the fuck? It's just weird. So like they had to do something different, because if this was really a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. If they just remade A Link to the Past, but with a bigger map, then people would be like, well, it's just a bigger map. You know, like, that's all. So, I mean, they were kind of screwed here, but what we got, I think, works pretty beautifully.
I completely agree. I mean, I know I'm complaining a lot about it, but I really did love this game, and this was also a really fun to watch the evolution going from, like, you heard on if you listen to these interviews that they were doing around when they were developing Skyward Sword, trying to figure out, break down Zelda into what it really is so that they could come up with a new concept that still felt distinctly Zelda. And you see that experimentation in both this and Skyward Sword, which eventually get us to Breath of the Wild. It's really, really interesting. And honestly, A Link Between Worlds it's just a fantastic game. And I don't want to spoil the ending for you, because the ending's pretty darn cool, actually. And it does involve Ravio, which is, you know, I didn't really care much for him in the first place, but then in the end I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming. That's kind of cool. So the true identity of Ravio is really neat. Good game. Hooray for A Link Between Worlds.
Well, speaking of Breath of the Wild, Hyrule Warriors is a thing that exists.
Hyrule Warriors sure is a thing that exists. Released on August 14th, 2014 in Japan, and September 26th, 2014 in the United States on the Wii U, and then with a sort of side version released for the 3DS for some damn reason, Hyrule Warriors Legends on January 21st, 2016, March 25th, 2016 on the 3DS. Wow, Hyrule Warriors.
Link
Have you actually played it?
I played a demo of it and went, yeah, that was fun. I don't need to do that again.
Yeah, I have the game, and I basically did that. I've played it like twice, maybe 3 times. Like,
Yeah, I'm sure it's great.
it's Dynasty Warriors in Hyrule. I
Yep.
don't love Dynasty Warriors games.
Nope.
They're kind of neat, but they're really not for me.
They're impressive that there's that many things on the screen, and then I stopped caring because it's just button mashing.
Yeah, it really stopped getting fun to me for pretty quickly. I love the DLC in these games, though.
There's some weird stuff.
The King of Red Lions, when you turn into the boat.
You're just the boat.
You're a boat, and you're ramming into things. Oh, God. Then Tingle, you just beating up people with a bag of rupees.
So weird.
What?
It looks great. It looks great. The character designs are all really cool.
Yeah, the character designs are pretty cool. I mean, some of the character choices are really weird, and then the like original character designs for this are pretty lame.
Yeah.
I think Linkle is grotesque.
Well, you know.
Ugh. Oh, we're gonna make a female Link. We're gonna call her Linkle, so she sounds like, I don't know, P.
Tinkle. Yeah.
And like she's running around with fully automatic crossbows. I think
it's
she's
just
terrible.
not how crossbows work.
That's really not.
I mean, there's
It's not how
there's no world where that's possible.
It's just not.
It is the complete antithesis of a fucking stringed weapon.
Yeah.
It's
That
dumb.
said-
But that said,
yeah.
You're running around, you're killing a bunch of stuff. The 10 minutes that I played it, like I think I played a demo at like the Toys R Us in Times Square, and I was like, that's fun. All right.
Yeah, I'm so glad this exists because the
Sure.
Dynasty Warriors series has its fans, and
Oh, and they are rabid.
This game did very well for Nintendo and Tecmo Koei, which is why we're getting a Fire Emblem Warriors.
Which is
It's sure, why not? But yeah, man, I love that this exists. I'm so glad I own it. I'm very rarely going to go back and play it, but I mean, like, you can be Ganon in this game and just beat people up. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's all for
But
fun. The
I mean,
3DS
come on.
one is like, this game doesn't belong on 3DS. It barely functions unless you have a new 3DS, and it's not a great look. But the
But
Wii U
Linkle.
version's great.
Linkle. Linkle. I mean, that's offensive.
It's pretty dumb. I did not care for the Linkle character. If you're gonna do a female Link, just make Link female. What difference does it make?
Just call her Stephanie. Don't call the female Link Linkle. Give her
just
a
make it
different
Link.
name.
There's nothing about Link that is distinctly male. Like,
No, there's
this is
not.
something I don't understand. How there's like a contingent of people wanting to be able to play through Zelda games as a female because they are female themselves and want to be represented by a female.
And
There's
Link is
nothing in the
androgynous that, you know, he's got
Yeah.
those elfish ears. He
I
looks
don't
kind of like
understand.
Galadriel.
Just make it just like in Pokemon. You should have the option. It's not like Link says anything.
Yeah, that's right.
He doesn't have a huge personality. I mean, like, I get it in, like, Wind Waker, for example. He has a very distinct boyish personality. Like, I get that. I understand
Sure.
that one. But something like Breath of the Wild that's so open-ended, I don't know, man. I feel
It's
like
the Doctor
they're-
Who thing. Like, the Doctor could be female.
Yeah.
Why not? Because it's not the same person every time. Like, I'm really hoping that at some point we get, like, the reveal in Breath of the Wild where Link actually does have, like, the Batman voice. Zelda. Oh, God.
That would be something.
That would be amazing.
All
If
right,
you just talk
we're
like
running
that.
long here. We got 2 games left to cover.
I know, it's so late. Jesus.
All right, next up on our list is, for the Nintendo 3DS, The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes, released October 22nd, 2015 in Japan, October 23rd, 2015 here in America. This game got a lot of flack. A lot of folks didn't like it. I think those people are crazy.
I think this was, again, though, one of those, like, you didn't give me the thing that I wanted. I don't know what I wanted, but this wasn't it. So
It wasn't as bad. It wasn't as grievous as, say, Metroid Prime Federation Force.
Right.
Because it's not like, we already knew Breath of the Wild was coming. We'd seen we'd seen the game, you know? It's not like we're starving for a new Zelda game. It had been a little while, but you know, we had A Link Between Worlds. This ran on the same engine. It was just another attempt at the multiplayer Zelda game. And like Four Swords, except for it was only 3 players because of the totem mechanic. I don't know. That was a bunch of bullshit to me.
Get it? It's real big.
Yeah.
3.
But no, this game's stupid fun. I had those same friends that we beat Four Swords Adventures with. I had those same friends come over and we played Triforce Heroes, and we didn't beat it because we didn't have that kind of time. But we put a couple hours into it, and it's really freaking fun. If you get people together in the same room to play it, it's super fun. And this is where I have a real problem with this game, was that it has online play, but it doesn't incorporate voice chat. So the only way to communicate with the people you're playing with is with these silly little tiles that you can tap that have Link pointing at certain things or whatever. That's
dumb.
Can
like,
be...
Don't make me Skype or hang out while I'm playing the game.
Yeah, no, this game, much like Splatoon, I believe, that, and even more so than Splatoon, this game needs voice chat. You need to be able to talk to the people you're playing the game with, because it involves a level of cooperation, which is why this game works incredibly well in local multiplayer, not so much in online multiplayer. And through no technical limitations other than Nintendo didn't want to incorporate voice chat because of the whole not wanting people to be offended with things. Like,
because
I'm so glad they got over that.
And
Then Swap Note went away. I'm so glad they've gotten over that for like there's gonna be voice chat in Splatoon 2 for Switch, so I'm sold. I'm sold.
But if you say tits, you're gonna be banned.
You're gonna be banned for life.
Banned for life. I bet
I mean,
you
like
do.
it was the exact solution they always needed to have. The only solution that you ever need to have. Okay, you're not allowed to talk to strangers. You can only do voice chat with people you're friends with.
Perfect.
Where's the problem in that?
There isn't.
There's no problem with that, because then you know the person, you trust them enough to be able to talk to them. Like, now you have taken Nintendo's liability off the table, because the onus is on the player to know and connect with the person that they're going to be playing with. So no random guys on the internet are going to be, no random chats. It's just your friends. And that's the way they're doing it with Splatoon 2. I don't know why they couldn't have done that for Triforce Heroes. It drives me nuts, because I would have played through this game already if there was voice chat without me having to load up Skype or do whatever other bullshittery.
I would get it to play with you, but it's just not going to happen.
No, it's really not. And it's a shame, because this game's really friggin' good. It's really clever. It's really fun. The different costumes you get are just ridiculous. Like, you just dress Link up like an idiot, and it's fantastic. Like, it doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's just wonderful.
Link in a cheerleader outfit.
It's delightful. I mean, it's stupid fun. It's stupid fun and very clever at the same time.
All right. Now,
let's wrap this up here.
Part 4 of the Zelda retrospective. The next 2 hours on Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Now, obviously, there's not a ton that we can say about this game because it's not out yet. But I'm excited for it.
Really good.
It looks really, really good. I'll be getting it on the Switch and probably eventually on Wii U because I'm a whore. You'll be getting it on Wii U, obviously.
I will be getting it on the Wii U first, and then eventually on the Switch when I buy one for my daughters, because I have a problem saying no, as evidenced by the amount of stuffed animals that we own.
So, I mean, we've talked a bit about this game. We're stoked about it being open world. So let's just talk a little bit about the news here, which I find very interesting that the internet is having the reaction it's having to it. They announced that Breath of the Wild is going to have DLC. And a lot of the internet is just like, oh, there's Nintendo nickel and diming us for blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at this like, okay, so you're telling me that this game, on its own, that I wasn't going to beat for a long time, because there is a shitload of game there. You're telling me that a few months from now, you're going to throw even more of that game at me. And you can get a season pass for $20. Okay.
But you can only get the season pass. You can't buy them separate.
You will when they come out. You can get it, they're doing it like they did with the Mario Kart. Like you can buy the season pass up front and get a discount, or once the actual DLC is released, you can buy it a la carte as it comes out.
That's still a little silly.
Isn't that how season pass? I don't know enough about it. I thought that's just how those things worked in general. Like you can either pay for it up front and get it for less.
I thought I read something where it was like you wouldn't be able to get them independent of each other, like ever.
No, I was pretty sure it was.
I might be wrong.
Yeah,
you keep
I don't
talking,
know.
I'll
have to look into it. I'm pretty sure the way that I read it was exactly like they did with Mario Kart. Like if they said with Mario Kart 8, they were like, we're going to release these 2 DLC packs. If you pay for them both up front now, you get a discounted rate, or you can pay for them individually as they come out. And they're doing the same thing. You got 2 DLC packs coming. What's in the DLC packs is weird. Like the second one seems really interesting to me because it's got like a bunch of story stuff in it. The first one is like some extra treasure boxes and a hard mode. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, like here's my issue with DLC is that if the game is like legitimately incomplete without the DLC, then I feel like
that's
you've
a problem.
Gotten yourself a problem. But
yeah,
this game's gonna be a pretty solid. This game is going to be a complete experience without that DLC.
This isn't Street Fighter V.
Exactly. This is like we gave you this giant game, but we still have more ideas. So we're just going to keep making the game after we're done with it, and this is bonus content. If you want it, enjoy. Like, I don't see what the big problem with this is. This doesn't look like nefarious or anything like that. It's not like they're holding back content. They've been working on this game for 35 years. It's not like they're like, oh, well, we better leave this off to the side so we can charge people for it later. It's like, no, there's like 3 billion hours of game here. How are you complaining about them? No.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It doesn't. This doesn't strike me as I don't know, like as a cash grab from Nintendo. This just seems like them doing what everybody does.
Yeah, I mean, like this, just like they did with was the Fire Emblem games. The people like ate up that DLC on it. It's just like, okay, you finished these Fire Emblem games. They were a complete experience. And now, like, you know what? We've got more. So here's an option to expand this. If you really liked this enough to want more of it, then we're going to give you the option to do more. It's just, that's the way DLC works. The whole freaking game industry works like that. And the internet was just like, oh, Nintendo's, they've fallen down the evil holes.
Yeah, here I'm looking at Kotaku right now. Mm-hmm. The expansion pass will be $20. Will come with 2 DLC packs. One will add the hard mode in the Cave of Trials. The other adds a new dungeon and an original story. It will also let Link wear a T-shirt with a Nintendo Switch logo on it. And you cannot purchase them individually. It's $20 or nothing.
That's interesting. See, I feel like I had read contrary to that.
Well. At least that's what Kotaku says. So yeah, that's a little weird.
That is a little weird.
Of like, we're going to give you some DLC, but you're going to fucking pay us for it. Like, and again, that goes back to like some of the Nintendo, like, we believe that it is worth this amount of money, so this is what we charge for it.
Yeah.
You know, which, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like when it comes down to it, if the second DLC pack comes out and it's still $20, then you get all the content of the first DLC pack and the second DLC pack. I don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like a year from now when they finally release expansion pack number 2. But,
right.
And again, it's Kotaku, so take it with a grain of salt. But
well, and
yeah, I don't know.
Like that's
weird.
the thing that like some of the online hate that I saw earlier on it was that, like, okay, you're charging me this $20 up front, and you're saying that it's $20 or nothing now, and that's with the like the pre-price, like with the price going up later, but you're asking me to pay you for something that you haven't even shown me yet. Like I have no idea what any of this is going to be.
Yeah, so I guess I get the outrage a little bit at that point, but not to the extent that it's well,
it's the
internet overreacting to something. Never.
It's like, come on now, like that's. But yeah.
Hey, I'll probably get it. I mean,
Of course you will.
I got some of the DLC for Hyrule Warriors for crying out loud, and I'll never play that. So I don't know if it's a good enough value proposition. I mean, the DLC on Mario Kart wasn't absurdly cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but it was really worth it. Like, that was
fun.
worth the money to me. I've gotten my money's worth out of that. And if I look at that and think I'm going to get my money's worth, I'll buy it. I mean, it just, like, this is the lay of the land. This is the way games work now. People release DLC for things.
I spend money on Puzzle and Dragons, Chris. Like, and it is nonsense what I spend money on. And, like, it's just, this is how games are. Games don't cost $60 anymore. They cost $60 and then another $5 and then another $3 here and then $10 here, and like, oh look, here's a thing. And
like, seriously, if you're gonna play enough, I can't imagine that you're not gonna get your $60 out of the base version of Breath of the Wild. Like, I can't imagine a scenario where somebody buys that game, plays the crap out of it, and says, now I have to pay more for DLC. Like, I didn't get enough. I didn't get my $60 worth out of the base game. How dare they charge me for more content? Like, yeah. I don't see that happening with this game. I can't imagine that being the case.
If that is the case, then they're done.
Yeah, if that is the case, if like this game feels small by any stretch of the imagination, which I can't imagine a scenario where it would, that would definitely be a dick move. But,
yeah, if this is like a 3-hour game, like you're playing through it and you're like, oh wait, shit, I'm done? There's no
Apparently
Shadow
you
World?
can make it that way because you can do anything in any order you want. It's just going to be really freaking hard.
I don't know. Like, I'm still concerned about the open worldness of it, but I don't know. Like, after finishing Arkham Knight last night, like, it reminded me of how much I don't like open world games. I don't like open world games where there's like, where the world itself is not memorable enough to like orient yourself in it. And I don't feel like that's going to be the problem here in Breath of the Wild, like where it was in Arkham Knight of driving around Gotham City. Like, and maybe it's just me, but like driving around that game, first of all, the driving mechanics felt awful. Like, it's just not fun, the driving missions that are in there. We talked earlier about how the horseback fighting was so good.
That was fun to do.
Yeah, that was fun. The Batmobile fighting in Arkham Knight is boring as shit. I just hated it. So, like, having to do that a lot really sucked. And then trying to be like, well, this, now you have to go to this other part of the city. It's like, well, it's all gray. None of it stands out. Like, oh, there's a bit of neon over here. Like, well, fuck off. Like, it's raining. Everything's wet and gray. This just, ugh.
Yeah, that's definitely not Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And plus, it's like anytime I feel like I get lost, I'll just find the closest mountain, climb to the top of it, and look around.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I need to go over that way, and then go for it. Plot of course. I'm so excited for this game. I've never really played anything quite like it, so yay, Zelda. So we did it. We did it, Dan. We talked about every Zelda game.
We
talked about the damn Nelsonic Game Watch.
We are nothing if not thorough.
We have done our due diligence.
We are like Maud's doctor friend. We're good men and thorough.
And thorough.
And a couple people get the Big Lebowski reference, and everybody else is like, what the fuck? All right.
And to those people I say, go watch the Big Lebowski.
Go
it's
watch
amazing.
the Big Lebowski.
I haven't seen that in way too long.
Her life is in your hands, dude. He wanted me to repeat that. Her life is in your hands.
And that's our show. Join us next week for another installment of the 10-20-30, because we can't come up with a more clever name than that. So we're sticking with it.
Damn right we are.
We're darn right. Once again, you can get in touch with us at mail@geekade.com, as well as all flavors of social media that we inhabit. You can like us on Facebook, find us on Instagram at Geekade, subscribe to our YouTube and Twitch channels for our latest video content, and follow us on Twitter at @the_Geekade. You can also find us individually on Twitter at, let's see, I'm at Geekade Kris, that's Geekade Kris, and Dan is at
Geekade Dan.
If you're interested in more information about anything we discussed here tonight, be sure to check out the show notes. And while you're at it, you can also subscribe to this and any of our other wonderful podcasts on iTunes or Stitcher, where if you're super nice, you can leave us a review, a 5-star review, a fancy schmancy, super positive review, because any and all feedback, especially good stuff, is welcome and appreciated.
Only good stuff is appreciated.
Only good stuff. We'd also like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for making this show listenable for all you folks, and we'd also like to thank Mark TDK Knight for our show's theme song. You can check him out on SoundCloud and Bandcamp, or his website, which we have a link to in the show notes. Again, always remember to keep your eyes on Geekade.com, where we post something new every single day, come heck or high water, no matter what I have to do at the last minute.
Like video game hearts.
Video game hearts. I wrote that thing. I made it happen.
You did. I read it.
Keep playing games. just keep playing.
Should I be recording this?
Test.